Right guys, welcome to a video. This is a video that I did make already a couple of weeks ago, maybe even longer. Whenever it was announced that PS5 was going to be backwards compatible with PS4 games and PSVR, more specifically. Yeah, I made a video then. Is that a couple of weeks ago? So that's something I want to talk about. A little bit out of date now, but yeah, that's really made me happy. It's been rumoured for a while, but it got officially announced a couple of weeks ago that we'd be able to have complete backwards compatibility with PS4 to PS5, and that's just so good. And it makes so much sense for PSVR as well, of course, because you've already invested hundreds in this setup. You've got the headset, the camera, the Move controllers, all the games, of course. So it's really, really good and nice of Sony to do this. I'm glad it's possible to do this, to make that backwards compatible, and it certainly makes a PS5 a possible day one purchase for me. And I don't think I've ever done that with a console before. I don't think I've ever bought a console on the day it came out, or in the week it came out. I think the closest to launch I ever got a console was the Wii. I got that very, very early on. There's a lot of hype about that, of course, and I really loved it for a few months. And then, yeah, the novelty of the motion controls wore off. Not that I don't like them now. I think certainly I do like a lot of motion control games. But yeah, anyway. Actually, you know what? Technically, I got a Mega Drive before it came out in this country. So that's pre-launch date purchase. I had a Mega Drive, an imported Asian PAL Mega Drive, several months before it came out in the UK. But yeah, PS5 day one purchase is a possibility if it does do that full backwards compatibility with PSVR, because of course the promise is, and the possibility is, that you'd be able to then improve the games to run on PS5, because of course the PS4 Pro, one of the big motivations for putting that console out there was to run the PSVR better, to have more processing power, because of course when you run VR games you're rendering the game twice, one for each eye, so of course it has to work a lot harder. So as a result, there's a dip in fidelity of graphics for a lot of the games. But it is possible to do high fidelity graphics on PSVR, but you do lose some clarity. So, for example, Resident Evil 7 is probably still the best looking PSVR game in terms of textures and the worlds, the build of the world. But it is blurrier than some other VR games. Some of the more simple graphics look clearer, or can be rendered to look clearer, because obviously it's pushing less power through the headset. But anyway, so the PS5 gives the possibility, of course, to render and see your games at the highest possible, frame rate, highest possible resolutions with high fidelity graphics. So best of all worlds. Of course, the PSVR 1 screen is limited to a certain resolution, of course, and there's still issues with tracking. It's not going to fix everything, but it certainly is a big possibility to massively improve, hopefully, if developers put out patches to take advantage of this, playing VR games on a PS5. So that's really cool. But yeah, pickups. Yeah, got some physical, got some digital. That's why I'm sat in front of the TV, so I can show you something when I'm talking about the digital games. But yeah, let's start with the physical. So we got Ghost Giant. Now this again was put out via Perk Games. The studio is called Thunderful, and Ghost Giant is a kind of like a point and click adventure. It's kind of like similar gameplay to kind of Monkey Island, where you're having to find the right things to interact with and manipulate the environment in order to help your character progress through the storyline. So yeah, you're not directly controlling the character, the little mouse here in the game. Called, is it not Quill? That's Moss, isn't it? What's he called? Louis or Lewis? Yeah. Anyway, so you're not directly controlling the little mouse. You are the Ghost Giant. You see these floating ghost hands? That's you in the game, and you're just manipulating things to help move the story on. But the reason this is so good, and it has been getting some really good critical acclaim, high praise, is that it's just really affecting, very emotional. It tells a story that's quite adult through this kind of prism of this very cutesy, cartoony world. It has a disarming juxtaposition of this kind of childlike, family-friendly style to it, and yet the theme is mainly about depression. And so I won't go into much detail about it if you obviously want to play that and experience the story for yourself. But it was really refreshing to play something that had a more kind of mature approach to a storyline, and it really worked actually. They really pulled it off, and I did really enjoy this. It's not a long game. You know, you can get through it in a couple, maybe 3 hours, maybe less than that if you know exactly what you're doing. But there's opportunity to piss about in the worlds that you are in. You don't need to rush through it. But anyway, just a really nice, charming story, and really well written, and looks beautiful, and it's worth picking up. I'm really glad I got that, and I got that on it's a limited edition, deluxe edition, which comes with eventually when it gets delivered, a pressed coloured vinyl of the soundtrack, and so that's just a collectible to have. So the collector bug has not gone, even though I've cleared out quite a lot of the retro. It's creeping back in with the PSVR stuff, although I'm certainly not going full set. That ship has sailed. There will be no full set PSVR collecting in this house. No. For many reasons. Mainly because sometimes it's difficult to even ascertain what really should be classed as a VR game. Some games have this PlayStation VR kind of ribbon across the top of the boxes, and yet they're not really VR games. Tekken 7, for one, has a really shit limited VR mode where you just get to basically watch characters spar in it's almost like a demo. It's not real fights. Anyway, so yeah, there's quite a lot of games out there that not worth collecting, so I ain't going for that. But anyway, happy to have this in the collezione. Now another one via Perp Games, this third-party publisher that's doing such a lot of good stuff getting these games out into physical format, is The Wizards Enhanced Edition. I'm not entirely sure what is enhanced about this. It has some kind of digital download extras that you can get, but that's about it I've seen. But anyway, it's okay, it's alright. It's you're a wizard, funnily enough, and you cast spells by doing different hand movements with the move controllers, and you shoot out use various spells depending on the different hand movements that you do. They're quite simple hand movements, so it's easy to play, and it's quite fun as well. The AI is quite simplistic. They kind of just like come towards you basically, but for what it is, it's fun. It's basically it feels like a wave shooter, although it has more freedom because you're not stuck in one place. You move around these quite large levels. So that's good. I like that you do actually move through environments, through levels. It's not just a wave shooter where you're stuck to the spot. So it has an element of exploration. It's okay. I haven't got very far into it yet. So far I have enjoyed it though. That's pretty sweet. Wizards. Yeah. And those were both, I've got both of these, as new when they came out, so they were full price. I think they're about 25 quid each, something like that. Yeah. Oh, I tell a lie. This was a bit more expensive because it's the deluxe edition with the vinyl, so that was a bit more. I think it was about 50 quid. But yeah. Right. What else we got? So I also picked up. This is a non-VR game. Imagine that. Double Switch remaster sort of thing for PS4. 25th anniversary edition. Is this from Limited Run? Yeah, this is from Limited Run Games. This is number 194. Stat fans. So this is one of my favourite games as a kid. I don't think it holds up as a gameplay experience these days. This is purely a nostalgia buy. But again, I got this direct from Limited Run. So I can't remember how much it was. Again, about 25 quid. They usually are from Limited Run, something like that. But I just had to have it. It's so amazing that this came out again. It's crazy. It hasn't aged well really. You know that gameplay mechanic of searching through the the camera feeds to try and trap baddies at the right moments. It's a bit too laborious now. It's not something that is as engaging as it was when I played it as a kid. Back then FMV was amazing, that you couldn't believe that your game was controlling video footage of actual people. As a kid, that was quite impressive, and that the atmosphere created by this game and that Night Trap as well was compelling. I really loved it. It took me in as a kid. I've tried to play it again, this mode, this version, and yeah, I don't think it's aged very well. But it actually plays better than it ever has, of course, because the load times in between accessing the video feeds as you move around to look at the different rooms in this hotel is super quick, of course. So it's a lot more forgiving to play. It's actually a lot smoother to play. But even given that, those improvements, and of course the resolution of the video is at the best it can be, and all the rest of it, but even given those improvements, it just really hasn't aged too well as a gameplay experience. So I'm not sure I'm going to see myself completing this. I say again, I can't even remember if I must have completed it back in the day. I must have done. I used to make these very comprehensive lists, and I'm sure a lot of people did. This is before the internet, before, every game under the sun had a walkthrough at your fingertips for free. I would map out the times and places that you needed to be and make a list of every single place and time you needed to be, so you can move around in the right order and catch baddies in the right order and that kind of thing, and catch the important pieces of storyline, that kind of thing. So I'm not that dedicated these days. I like my games to be a little bit more accessible and immediate, because you've got shit to do, you know what I'm saying? But I've got it anyway. Right, next one is kind of a VR game, or it will be a VR game, and that is No Man's Sky. So I finally picked this up. And it's getting a VR patch. It was rumoured for a long time. It's finally, recently got confirmed. And I'm really glad now that I never played it in non-VR mode, because now I'll be able to jump straight in as a fresh and experience it all as a VR game. I won't have any reference really to playing it on the telly, so I'm happy about that. I'm also happy that it's had a lot of improvements, a lot of patches. So it came out, quite bare bones compared to the kind of promises that the developers put out there during when they were making it. When it came out, a lot of people kind of let down. It was a lot more sparse than we were led to believe it would be, but they have worked on it a shit ton apparently, and I am told that it is now very, very close to what they were actually promising, before it came out. So a hell of a lot more content, and that VR patch is going to make this a really, really fun game to play. I can't wait to get involved and start exploring and all the rest of it. So that was about 11 quid, something like that. So yeah, cool. Now, this isn't a new pickup, but it is in this pile what I have down here, because I've been playing it recently and I finally got around to it. And it's a Downward Spiral Horus Station. This is really cool. It's a very atmospheric. You're basically moving through this space station, and the way that you move through the space station is one of the biggest draws of this game. One of the funniest parts about it. You've got your move controllers. So you're basically just pulling yourself through the space station by, you grab onto any surface at all, and you can push yourself off, and obviously because you're in space, you will just keep floating in the direction that you pushed yourself in. And later on you get a grapple hook as well, so you can target walls further away. You don't have to be hands reach to them. So it's just really fun to be moving through this zero-G environment and all the rest of it. There is the enemies, the shooting involved. It's just very atmospheric, but I haven't got very far into it yet. Again, I'm told it's fairly short. That's pretty much par for the course for a lot of VR games. Developers are obviously selling to a lot smaller market, so the budgets for these games aren't as great. So a lot of the time you are getting kind of shorter experiences, but that's fine for me. I've enjoyed those that I have so far played. Anyway, so those are the physicals. But yeah, PSVR is a bugger. I love it, and I support it, and I enjoy supporting it, and I'm happy to support it. But a lot of the games are coming out digital only, and that goes right against my game buying ethos. So often I'll wait for games to go down in price in a sale to kind of offset that that disappointment of not being able to get a physical copy. So yeah, but sometimes I'll jump straight in if something has had great reviews. Now behind me, Space Junkies is one that's come out fairly recently. This is a multiplayer kind of online shooter, although they are going to add bots soon, so there will be a patch to be able to play it offline apparently, but Well, I hope offline. Certainly will be bots anyway. But yeah, multiplayer shooter. And again, you're in 0G. You're flying around these space-like environments. Very colourful. Very, very fun. It's recently had move support added as well. I can't believe it didn't launch with that, because the crux of the game is you have two guns, and often, well, you can dual wield. You can dual wield in the game. So you have these two guns and you're moving around and you're shooting, and it's really fun. What can be said about it? I can't really. There's not much to say about it. It's a very simple game, but it's very, very fun. And I've had some multiplayer games on it so far, and yeah, that's a cool game. So what else have we got on this list? So there's the Wizards, yeah. Oh, this is Crisis Brigade. A very short game, a very simple game. Again, a kind of a shooting gallery game, but very fun. I can't really say too much about that. It's just a simple shooty action. Don't know anything about that. This I picked up a game called Eden Tomorrow, or is that no? That's a demo. A demo of Eden Tomorrow. Don't really know too much about it, so I won't talk about that. Let's go to the stuff I can talk about. So you see, I've got my VR games organised a little bit. This is standing VR, so all the games where it's better to stand and play them together in this folder. So Beat Saber, of course, is always on my most played list. Still pretty much addicted to that. But I feel like I've peaked. I feel like I've peaked on Beat Saber. I see some of my friends' scores, and it's God Cannon especially. God Cannon is fucking legendary at this game. PSVR Underground. But it's just, oh god, that's addictive. So good game, such a good game. But here we go, right. Space Pirate Trainer, another wave shooter, shooting gallery game. But it's, and the PSVR has got so many shooting gallery, light gun games basically. But this one works really well. The graphics are really crisp. It's got really good music that fits the action, and it's just really fun to play. I don't know how else to explain it. The mechanics of changing weapons, you've got a shield, it just works really well. You know, when something is nailed, it doesn't matter if there's a million other examples of it out there. When a game nails it, it's worth having, and this is certainly one of them. So Space Pirate Trainer is pretty cheap as well. Now, In Death. This is my new favourite PSVR game. Oh shit, I can't believe this didn't get a physical release. Well, I can't believe it, because again, part of the course with PSVR, but I should say it's a shame this didn't get a physical release. I would have been on it. And now I'm in that familiar position of, now that I have bought it digital, I kind of hope it doesn't come out physical, because that'll piss me right off. Anyway, In Death, how to describe this game? Okay, it's kind of a cross between Rogue, it's like a rogue-like game where, the levels are procedurally generated every time you start again. The level is redesigned and it's a different layout, so it's got that element to it. If you play Persistence on PSVR, it's similar in that sense. But yeah, Rogue is the game. I've not played Rogue, but this is the game that is used as the watermark to compare any game that has this kind of procedurally generated levels thing going on. So it's like that, but it's also like Dark Souls. It's kind of like Dark Souls Rogue, a kind of Dark Souls / Rogue / Persistence game in a fantasy setting. It's okay. So basically, it's so good. You start off with a bow and arrow, and the physics of that work really well. You can move around freely. You can teleport as well, and it's just so satisfying to play. The fact that you're physically, really doing the actual aiming, and that physicality that most VR games, I guess, most of the best ones, especially ones with hand presence, the ones that use the move controllers, it just, that physicality of actually carrying out the actual movements you're doing in game to attack your enemies or whatever it is just really fun and compelling. It's brilliant. It pulls it off really well. So it's just, you're moving around these levels, and it's kind of like monks and knights and zombies, those kind of characters in a kind of fantasy style setting, and it's just really challenging. It's just really fun to play, and just like the Persistence, you will die a lot, but when you die, you will keep certain upgrades. Your achievements will improve the game or improve your chances, add things to the world, that kind of thing. So you are always kind of making progression, even though you're dying fairly often, until you get good at it, of course. But again, it is challenging, but it's fair. It's certainly fair. You certainly can, if you're patient and use your actual, skill and nous. How do you pronounce that name? That word. Nous. Nous. Yeah. It's fair. It's hard but fair. Anyway, it's really, really fucking good. I'm not doing a great job of explaining it. I'm attempting to do a gameplay video of it to kind of show what it's like to play. That's probably the best thing to do. And when I do VR gameplay videos, I like to do a little, a cutaway of me actually playing it with the game footage, so you can get a kind of idea of the correlation. So I might do that, but cause I know I'm not doing it justice here. But fucking hell, it's so fun, really immersive, and just cool. Another really immersive game. It's not a new pickup for me, but I'll talk about it because I've been playing it more recently. Is Creed: Rise to Glory. It's a boxing sim. Well, I say sim. It's a boxing game. It's certainly more of a sim than the other boxing game we've got on PSVR, which was name's going to escape me now. I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, Creed is a really actually effective boxing game. It really does work quite well. And PvP as well. So I've only recently actually had a few PvP matches. When you're playing against a human, it's even more immersive, even more effective as a boxing sim, because you really do get the feel of that person there, being a real person, because it's obviously mimicking their movements, their body movements, their hand movements. So each person you play against will have a different style, different types of blocks, different approaches. It fucking works. It's a boxing game in VR, and it's what you'd expect it to feel like, and it works really well. So yeah, awesome. Really happy with that one. We also have here Racket Fury. Now this is the second table tennis game that I've bought for PSVR. First one was called Ping Pong VR. It was a launch game, I believe. Very simplistic looking graphics, that one, but it worked well. The physics of the ball was fantastic, and this is just as fun to play. It's got better graphics. It's promising online PvP. Now they've been promising that for a while. It still hasn't come yet. I hope that it does, because that certainly will give this game some legs. At the minute, when you're playing against a computer, it's quite easy to kind of reach a peak where you feel like, the characters get really good, and of course, the computer is going to be as hampered by kind of having to manage controls and that sort of thing, because of course, the controls are good and the physics are good, but of course it's not perfect, they're not real, so there's going to be some margin for error in terms of input, in terms of it not doing what you expected it to do, just subtle things like that. But for the most part, I'm nitpicking, for the most part it controls fantastic, and as you would expect it to, and it feels really natural, it feels really good. But yeah, I'm really hoping they do add that PvP to it, because that's certainly going to improve it a lot. Right, another kind of similar game, we got this, what's it called? Dream Match Tennis VR, tennis in VR. Now this, as far as I know, is only one of only two games, maybe the only game? Is it the only game? I think it might be the only game that uses the nav control that used to come to accompany the Move controller on PS3. Now, of course, when PSVR gave the Move controllers a second life, it did not give a second life to the nav controllers. So I don't even think those things are probably not even getting made anymore. So to actually be able to get one of those things, to play this game properly, or I shouldn't say properly, to play this game at its kind of fullest potential, you have to go and search out a discontinued controller. So you're going to have to go to your cash converters, wherever else, and dig around in bargain bins and things to find one of those nav controllers that you just don't see anywhere anymore to be able to play this game. So it's quite bizarre, but it's cool that they put that in there. I've not got one yet. I do hope to try and get one, and hopefully that'll give you some more free movement around the court. But as it is, just with the Move controller, it works pretty well. I'm not very good at tennis, so I can't tell yet if my failure at the game is down to my own lack of skill or the game's imperfect control methods. I don't know. It feels okay. It feels pretty good. It was dead cheap. I got it for like £2 literally. So yeah, it's one of those bargain games on the old sales. So what else have we got? To the Top, that's an old one. Transference, that's a cool, scary game, but it's not what I've been... Oh, no, hang on. Upwards. So, then in seated games, what have we got? So Borderlands VR, this is not a new pickup, but I've been playing a hell of a lot of it. And it's fucking brilliant. It's really, really good. You know, sometimes... most of my favourite VR games are standing up and use quite a lot of energy and moving around a lot. But after a 12-hour shift, which is the length of my shifts, sometimes you don't want to do that. You just want to sit down on the couch. And so when you want to just chill and play a game, and I like to play a VR game just when I have no energy, rather, this is my current go-to game. And again, really glad that I never played this when it first came out. That might be a theme, you know. I've got 3 shelves worth of 360 games in the game room, many of which I've not even opened yet, or not even played yet. And now I'm starting to think, should I bother? Should I just forget about that 360 collection, because there's a chance that this might keep happening. That, you know, previous gen games will get VR patches or VR reworks and get re-released. I mean, it's money for old rope. You know, if things like this are successful, a lot of developers might get onto that and think that that's worth doing. So there's a whole rich seam, a whole cornucopia of previous gen games that could run quite nicely on VR if they just do that upgrade for it. You know, and it's not just some half-assed thing. This as well. This unfortunately didn't get a physical release. I was really gutted about that. But yeah. It wasn't just a half-assed attempt. They've done a lot of cool stuff to it. The 3D works fantastic. It really adds something to me to have that 3D, that depth perception in these types of games, like shooting games. To have that depth perception between yourself and the enemies. And it just, I love that sense of presence that it gives you, that sense of space in the game world. Anyway, but they've also done aim controller support. So of course, the aim controller, of course, is the gun-shaped peripheral that you hold, and it feels like you've got an assault rifle in your hand in the game. So it's actually got, you can play it with the DualShock, and that's how I have been mainly playing it, but you can also play it with this aim controller, which gives you a much more immersive feel to the game, because of course you're directly controlling the gun one-to-one, and it's not just static as, you know, as you play with the DualShock. But yeah, fucking brilliant. Really, really enjoying that game. And so that's all I've got to say about that. Everybody knows what Borderlands is all about. So, Pixel Ripped. I don't think that's a new pickup, but I shall talk about it now, for I have played it some more. And this is a cool game. You are using the DualShock controller and you're playing a sort of Game Boy style game. You're holding this kind of Game Boy thing in your hand, and you're playing a very simplistic Game Boy looking pixelated game on the screen of this handheld that you're holding. But in the meantime, around you in the VR world is a lot of kind of peripheral activity, and sometimes you have to be careful. Like, for example, there's one scene where you're in a classroom and you have to avoid the teacher seeing you play this game. If you do, it's game over. So you've got to keep an eye on the teacher. You've got to try and cause distractions with other ways, various things you can do. But you know, you've got to get to the end and finish this game whilst not being caught and all the rest of it. So it has this kind of two-tiered gameplay going on. You have to keep attention to two different kind of spaces, I guess. But yeah, it's really, really, it works brilliant. It's charming. It's really cool. There is later on in the game, there's kind of this mixture of, you know, what's happening on your Game Boy and what's happening in the real world. Yeah, it works really well. It's fantastic. So I mean, I think that's all the pickups. I've got a couple more little ones down here, but it's not really worth talking about. Esper, some kind of puzzle game. It's alright. Catch and Release, that's a fishing game. A lot of people raved about it. I'm not there with it yet. Maybe I just haven't got the patience to just sit and wait for stuff to happen. I don't know. But people love it. Yeah, apparently it's the best fishing game on VR. And so I got it when it was on sale to check it out, and haven't really been too enamoured with it so far. But yeah, that is about it, I think. That's all the games. Alright guys, I'm going to end this video here and Nice to see you. I know it's been a long time. But that's it for now. Alright guys, in a bit. Bye bye.